Evan moved carefully through the strange forest, his boots sinking into the soft blue soil with every step. He had been stranded on this alien planet for almost a week, and each night felt longer, colder, and more dangerous than the one before. The trees looked like tall black bones, their branches thin like needles, and every time the wind touched them, they made a soft clicking sound that felt too alive to be natural. Evan kept his small fire low, trying not to attract anything that lived in the forest. He had already seen shadows moving far away during the nights, and he knew he was not alone on this world, but tonight felt different. The air was heavy, too silent, too still, as if something was holding its breath and watching him. He tightened his grip on the metal pipe he used as a weapon. The forest gave him nothing but fear, and the fear was growing stronger each night. He looked around again, trying to convince himself that he was imagining it, but deep inside, he knew he wasn't. Because the clicking sound was back. It started softly, almost like two stones touching each other. Then it became louder, faster, like someone tapping their claws on wood. The sound moved between the trees, circling him, coming closer with every second. Evan felt the hair on the back of his neck rise. He slowly stood up, his eyes scanning the darkness in every direction. "Who's there?" he whispered, even though he knew no one could understand him. His voice felt small inside the huge forest. The clicking stopped suddenly. Evan's breath froze inside his chest. He waited, knees slightly bent, ready to run. The silence pressed around him like a thick blanket. Too heavy, too unnatural. His heart was beating so fast it hurt. He stared into the darkness between two large bone-like trees, and for a moment he thought he saw nothing, but then it moved. A shadow, tall and thin, stepped out from behind the tree. At first he only saw the outline, a strange and unfamiliar shape. The moonlight touched it slowly, revealing long, delicate legs, far more than any human should have. Evan's eyes widened. The figure's body rose and lowered, almost like it was breathing twice at the same time. Then the moonlight grew brighter, and he saw her clearly for the first time. An alien girl, but not like anything he ever imagined. She had 8 graceful limbs shaped like spider legs, each one moving with soft, controlled motions. Her skin was pale silver, glowing lightly like frost, and her eyes, they were bright blue, shining in the dark like 2 small stars. They were not empty or cold. They were deep, full of thought, full of something he could not understand. Evan froze completely. His throat felt dry, his hands shaking uncontrollably. Every instinct screamed the same thing: run. Run now, before she eats you, because everything about her body, her legs, her fangs, her shadow in the dark, looked like a creature made to hunt, made to trap, made to feed. Evan tried to step back, but his foot hit a rock, making a loud sound. Her head lifted fast, her eyes locking on him instantly. She didn't blink, didn't move for a long moment. She simply stared at him, studying him like a scientist would study an unknown animal. Evan felt trapped. His breath was loud and shaky. His heart hammered so hard he thought she could hear it. Finally, she moved slowly, carefully, almost gently. One of her legs reached forward, not fast, not aggressive, but curious. Evan lifted his metal pipe in fear. The girl stopped, tilting her head like she didn't understand why he was afraid. Her eyes softened, but Evan could not see that softness through his fear. He stepped backward. She stepped forward. He stepped faster. She matched his speed. Her movements were silent, smooth. Too smooth for his human mind. Every part of her looked like danger. Every part of him wanted to run. Evan finally turned and sprinted into the forest, his legs shaking, branches cutting his arms as he pushed through the darkness. Behind him, he heard the soft click-click of her legs touching the ground. She was following him, not fast, not slow, just enough to make sure he knew she was there. He didn't look back, because he knew, if he looked back, He would see those glowing blue eyes watching him, waiting, studying, and maybe wanting something he could not understand. He ran until his lungs burned. But the clicking never stopped. She was still behind him, still watching, still following, and that night, Evan understood one terrifying thing. This alien spider girl wasn't going to leave him alone. Even spent the whole night shaking inside the small shelter he made from broken ship panels. Every sound outside felt sharper, louder, more threatening than night before. He kept replaying the image of the alien spider girl in his mind, her glowing blue eyes, her long legs, her slow movements that felt both gentle and dangerous at the same time. He tried to tell himself she had left, that maybe she only appeared because he was in her territory. But a part of him knew the truth. She had followed him with purpose. So when the first morning light touched the forest, Evan stepped outside carefully, his heart still tight with fear. The forest looked normal, quiet, peaceful even. But he knew peace on this planet was a lie. He searched the ground for any signs she had been there. And his blood turned cold when he saw new marks in the dirt, thin sweeping lines made by her legs. She had stayed close to him through the night, maybe even watched him sleep. Evan's fear grew heavier the more he thought about it. He packed his few things as fast as he could, hoping to reach the rocky cliffs on the other side of the forest. Maybe she wouldn't follow him there. Maybe she didn't like open spaces. He had no real plan, just fear guiding his steps. But as he started walking, his eyes caught something strange near his shelter. It looked like threads, fine silver threads arranged in a shape. He bent down slowly, and his breath caught in his throat. It wasn't a web to trap him. It was a symbol, a pattern, almost like writing. Gentle curves and spirals made with careful hands. Or careful claws. Evan ran his fingers over the threads. Confused and scared, was she trying to communicate? Was she warning him? Was she marking him? He stepped back quickly, but before he could think more, the forest around him grew silent again. Too silent, the wind stopped, the trees froze. Even the air felt thick as if holding a secret. Evan knew what that meant. She was near. His heart dropped into his stomach. He turned slowly, and there she was, standing between the black bone trees, watching him with those shining blue eyes. Her legs unfolded with graceful control, each movement smooth like water. She stepped closer, and Evan felt frozen again. Fear locking his muscles, the alien girl kept approaching slowly. She wasn't hiding this time. She wasn't moving like a hunter. She was walking directly toward him, her body lowered slightly, almost like she was trying to make herself look smaller. Less frightening, but to Evan, every step felt dangerously close. He raised his metal pipe with shaking hands, his chest rising and falling fast. "Stay back," he whispered. His voice weak and scared. She stopped for a moment, tilting her head again like she was trying to understand him. Then she gently touched the ground with one of her legs, tapping it lightly 3 times. The exact same rhythm she tapped when she appeared last night. Evan realized she was repeating behavior, repeating it on purpose, but why? She slowly lifted one of her front limbs, not like an attack, but like reaching, offering something invisible. Evan backed away fast, his feet stumbling on the uneven ground. She paused again, her eyes confused, as if she couldn't understand why he was afraid. The forest around them felt brighter, the light from the rising sun touching her silver body, making her look less monstrous and more delicate, almost fragile. But Evan's fear was stronger than reason. He tried to run again, but before he could take more than 2 steps, he felt something touch his shoulder, gentle but firm. He spun around in panic, expecting claws, expecting fangs, expecting pain. But she had touched him with the soft tip of one leg, just enough to stop him, not hurt him. He froze. Breathing hard, she looked at him, not with hunger, but with something that felt almost like worry. She lowered her body even more, her eyes becoming softer, not bright like a predator, but calm like she wanted to tell him something important. Evan didn't understand. He only knew one thing: she wasn't attacking. She could have killed him already if she wanted to, but she didn't. Instead, she gently traced the air between them with her leg, pointing at him, then at herself, then toward the deeper forest, repeating the motion again and again. Her movements slow, patient, almost pleading. Evan felt confusion mixed with fear. What was she trying to say? Why didn't she leave him alone? Why did she keep following him? He took one small step back, and she lowered her head sadly, as if she understood his fear and didn't like it. The moment felt heavy and strange. A connection forming, but not yet clear. She stepped back a little too, giving him space. The forest breathed again. Evan stood there shaking, staring at the creature who could kill him but didn't. And he realized something that scared him even more. She wasn't hunting him. She wanted something from him, something he didn't understand yet, but something important enough that she wouldn't stop approaching him, no matter how much he ran. Evan tried to stay awake that night, but exhaustion pulled him down slowly like heavy chains. Every time his eyes closed, his mind replayed the image of the alien spider girl moving closer to him, her soft blue eyes watching him with a strange emotion he could not understand. He didn't know if she wanted to help him, warn him, or trap him. And the uncertainty built a deep fear inside his chest. The forest grew colder, the sky darker, and the wind whispered through the bone-like trees in a way that made him feel painfully alone. As he sat by the dying fire, hugging his knees, he kept hearing small movements around him. Thin branches bending, gentle taps on the ground. But he told himself it was only the wind. He didn't want to face the truth that she might be watching again from the shadows. When the first drop of rain hit his cheek, he opened his eyes and realized a storm was forming above the forest. Dark clouds rolling like waves, lightning glowing behind them. The wind turned sharp and angry. Evan rushed to strengthen his shelter. But the storm arrived faster than he expected. Rain poured down like a waterfall. Wings slammed against the metal panels, and all at once, the forest became a roaring nightmare. Evan stepped outside to fix a loose panel. But the ground was slippery, and when lightning flashed, he saw the roots beneath him too late. His foot twisted violently, and he fell hard, pain shooting up his leg. He screamed and grabbed his ankle. The storm swallowed his voice immediately. Thunder shaking the air, he tried to stand again. But the pain was too strong, and his leg refused to hold him. Panic rose inside him. He knew predators moved freely during storms on this planet. He had seen their glowing eyes before. And now he was weak, helpless, unable to run or hide. Lightning flashed again, and in that split second, he saw her. She stood only a few meters away. Her body wet from the rain, the water sliding down her silver skin like liquid glass. Her 8 legs steady against the storm. Her blue eyes locked on him. Evan felt every fear inside him explode. He tried to crawl away, but she moved fast. Faster than he had ever seen, her limbs cutting through the rain with smooth, silent motions. She reached him in seconds. Evan raised his arms in panic, expecting fangs, claws, pain. Anything, but she didn't attack. Instead, she lowered herself and gently touched his injured leg with the tip of one limb. Her touch was surprisingly warm, almost soft, like a feather brushing against his skin. Evan shook his head, terrified. "No, don't, please," he whispered. But she only watched him with a calm, steady gaze. Another flash of lightning lit up her face. And for the first time, Evan realized she was frightened too. Not of him, but of something else. Something beyond the storm. Slowly, carefully, she lifted him with 2 of her front limbs. Her movements so gentle that Evan almost forgot she had the strength to crush him. He braced himself again for pain, but instead, she carried him toward his shelter with surprising care, shielding him from the heavy rain with her own body. When they reached the doorway, She set him down and then crawled inside after him, her legs folding neatly beneath her. Evan backed away, breathing fast, but she didn't come closer. She stayed near him but not touching, watching his injury with deep concern. As if she understood he was hurt, without warning. She reached toward her mouth. And Evan panicked again, thinking she would bite him. But instead she pulled out a thin line of silk, glowing faintly white. She placed the silk gently on his injured ankle and wrapped it around with slow, careful motions. The pain in his leg began to fade, replaced by a warm, soothing feeling that spread through his muscles. Evan stared at her in shock. He had expected death. But she was helping him, truly helping him, when she finished. She stepped back and lowered her body, her eyes soft, waiting, almost as if she wanted to see if he understood her intention. Evan didn't speak. He couldn't. He only stared at the alien girl who should have been a monster, but instead became the first being on this planet to show him kindness. The storm raged outside, thunder shaking the forest. But inside the shelter, there was only silence. One human and one alien staring at each other. No longer hunter and prey, but something far more complicated. Something that neither of them fully understood yet. Evan woke to the soft sound of breathing inside the shelter. Slow, calm, steady breaths that did not belong to him. For a moment he forgot where he was, but when he opened his eyes, the memories hit him like a wave, the storm, the fall, the pain. And the alien spider girl who saved him instead of hurting him. She was still there, sitting silently near the entrance. Her silver body curled like a protective shield, her eyes glowing softly in the dim light. She watched the forest outside with sharp focus, as if guarding him from something he could not see. Evan sat up slowly, expecting her to react. But she didn't move suddenly or threaten him. Instead, she looked at him with a strange mix of relief and sadness. He touched his ankle and felt no pain. The silk she wrapped around it had hardened into a soft band, warm like skin. He whispered a quiet "thank you," even though he wasn't sure she understood. The girl tilted her head at his voice, her eyes blinking slowly. Then she made a sound, soft clicks mixed with a gentle hum. Almost like a whisper. It wasn't threatening, it was shy, curious. She crawled a little closer, keeping her body low, as if telling him she didn't want to scare him. Her front limb touched the ground near him, not on him. Just close enough to show she wasn't afraid. Evan watched her carefully, noticing something different today. She wasn't just curious, she was tense, nervous. Her eyes kept shifting toward the deeper forest as if expecting something dangerous. Every few seconds, her legs tightened and relaxed like she was preparing to fight or flee. Evan followed her gaze but saw nothing. Only the dark, silent trees. "What's out there?" he whispered, more to himself than to her. But something in the forest answered, the faintest distant rumble, a low growl carried by the wind. The spider girl stiffened instantly, her eyes narrowing. She tapped one leg against the ground in a rapid rhythm, the first time she didn't move slowly. Her fear was real, sharp, urgent. She looked at Evan and tapped again, pointing toward the forest, then at herself, then at him, repeating the motion with increasing desperation. Evan felt a cold chill spread through him. She was trying to tell him something important. Something dangerous, but he couldn't understand fast enough. Frustration filled her eyes, and she moved closer, drawing patterns on the dirt with her leg spirals. Lines, circles, again pointing at the woods. She repeated the symbol several times. Each time faster, more desperate. The growl from the forest returned. Louder this time, heavy, hungry, too deep to belong to any creature he had seen before. Evan swallowed hard, and suddenly, the spider girl reached out and touched his chest gently. Not with aggression, but urgency. Her eyes locked onto his, glowing brighter. Filled with fear, not for herself, but for him. She tapped his chest lightly, then pointed both front limbs toward the forest again. But then she shook her head, as if saying no, no, no. Not that direction, not there. Evan finally understood a piece of it. She was warning him, trying to stop him from going deeper. Something terrible was inside that part of the forest. Something she didn't want him near. The realization hit him even harder when she moved toward the entrance and spread her legs protectively, like she was blocking something from coming in. She looked both fierce and scared at the same time, like a mother defending something precious. The growl turned into a sharp, echoing roar far away, shaking the leaves on the trees. Evan's breath caught in his throat. But the spider girl didn't run. Instead, she pushed the shelter's panel with her limbs. Urging Evan to stay inside, she tapped the metal twice. Stay. Hide, and then stepped outside, her body rising tall, her eyes hardening with determination, as if she was ready to face whatever danger was coming, even if it meant risking herself. Evan crawled toward the entrance, wanting to stop her, but she turned back once, meeting his eyes, and gave a small nod, a gentle one, telling him she wanted him safe, that she needed him to trust her. And before he could speak, she disappeared into the forest, silent and fast, leaving him with one terrifying thought. She wasn't just curious about him. She was protecting him, and whatever she was facing out there was something far worse than she was letting him see. Evan waited inside the shelter with his heart pounding so hard it felt like it might break his ribs. Every second stretched like a full minute as the roars of the distant creature echoed through the forest. Sometimes closer, sometimes far, but always frightening. He wanted to run after the spider girl, to know if she was safe. But fear and confusion held him still. He didn't know how far she had gone or what danger she was facing. He only knew one thing: she had left to protect him, even though he still did not fully understand why she cared. The minutes passed slowly, the storm clouds finally parted, and the forest returned to its cold silence. Evan stepped out carefully. The air smelled of wet soil and tension. He called out softly, hoping she would answer. But the forest gave him nothing back, no movement, no sound, only emptiness. His stomach tightened with guilt. He had been so afraid of her, but she had risked herself for him every time. He followed the direction she had gone, his steps slow, wary, the forest growing thicker the deeper he walked. Then he saw a trail of faint silver threads on the ground, glowing softly like moonlight, trapped in silk. She had left a path for him to follow, not to scare him, but to guide him safely. He took a deep breath and followed the threads deeper until the trees opened toward a narrow valley. A huge rock wall rose ahead, cracked and old, and at the base of it, there was a dark cave entrance half covered by thick roots and fallen branches. Evan felt a chill. The place looked ancient, forgotten, dangerous, but the threads led straight inside. He hesitated only for a second before crouching low and stepping in. The air was cold and damp, and his breath echoed faintly off the stone walls. He walked deeper, following the glowing threads until he reached a wider chamber where the air felt strangely warm. What he saw inside froze him in shock. Several small alien spider children lay on the cave floor, their bodies weak, trembling, their silver skin turning dull like fading light. Some of them were so tiny they could fit into his hands, all of them breathing weak, shallow breaths, as if life was slowly leaving them. For a moment he just stared, not able to move, not able to speak. Then he saw her, the spider girl, kneeling near them, her body shaking with exhaustion, her limbs scratched and bruised as if she had fought something powerful. She looked up at Evan, her eyes filled with relief and deep sadness. She tapped the ground weakly as if asking him to come closer. He stepped forward slowly, his chest tightening at the sight of the children, their small eyes barely open, their soft clicks weak like whispers. He understood everything in one single moment. She had never been following him to hunt him. She had never wanted to harm him. She had been trying to lead him here, to this hidden cave, to these dying children. She trusted him because she thought he could help. Somehow, someway, she believed he could save them. The realization felt like a heavy stone dropping inside his heart. He knelt beside her, and she gently pushed one of the children toward him with her limb. Her eyes begging, pleading, the fear he had felt for days suddenly faded, replaced by something stronger, something human, compassion. He looked around the cave and saw small bottles of alien medicine spilled on the floor. Dried leaves with faint golden dust, strange crystals that glowed weakly. All things she must have gathered trying to keep them alive on her own. But she was only one, and she was exhausted. Evan understood the truth. The colony had been attacked, the parents were gone or injured. And she was the last one still strong enough to protect the children. And she had found him, followed him, begged him without words because she needed help. His help, Evan touched the child gently, feeling their small body trembling. He looked at her with soft eyes. "I'll help," he whispered. And even though she didn't understand the words, she felt the meaning. Her eyes softened with gratitude. She lowered her head toward him respectfully. And for the first time, Evan did not see her as a monster, or a threat or something to fear. He saw her as a protector, as a sister. As someone desperate to save her family, he felt something powerful shift inside him. Something that told him his purpose on this planet had been rewritten by fate. He wasn't just a survivor anymore, he was needed. And now he finally understood why she never stopped following him. Because without him, her children would not live through the night. Evan worked through the long, quiet hours of the night with trembling hands and a heart that felt too heavy for his chest. The alien spider children lay weak in the warm cave, each one breathing softly, their silver skin dim like fading metal. The older spider girl watched him closely, her body lowered in exhaustion, but her eyes never leaving him. She trusted him completely now, and that trust felt like a weight Evan could not fail. He searched the cave for anything that could help the children's strange plants she had collected. Cracked crystal pieces, dried golden leaves, small containers filled with glowing blue liquid that looked like medicine. He didn't know how to use alien medicine, but the girl moved slowly beside him, tapping certain herbs, pushing others aside, guiding his hands gently with her limbs. Their communication was clumsy, broken, but real. Every time Evan mixed something wrong, she shook her head gently and tapped the correct ingredients again, working side by side in silence. Two beings who didn't share a language but shared the same fear losing the children. Evan crushed herbs, boiled water using a small piece of metal and fire, soaked the golden leaves until a sweet smell filled the cave, then fed the warm mixture slowly to each small child. Some accepted it weakly, some resisted. But the spider girl leaned close and hummed soft calming sounds that made the little ones relax. Evan realized that was her version of comfort, like a mother humming to her babies. And the moment touched him so deeply that his throat tightened. He wiped sweat from his forehead and kept working. Again and again, checking their breathing, covering them with pieces of silk she helped him weave, gently massaging their limbs the way she showed him. The hours passed slowly but steadily. And for the first time since he crashed onto this planet, he felt he had a purpose bigger than just surviving. The children depended on him. And the spider girl looked at him with gratitude he could feel even without words. When he finally sat back, exhausted, the children were sleeping more peacefully than before. Their breathing stronger, their silver skin glowing a little brighter. The spider girl touched one child carefully, then looked at Evan with eyes shining like soft stars. She lowered herself to the ground, spreading her limbs in a gesture he had seen earlier when she was showing respect or submission. He didn't understand why she did that, but something about it felt important, meaningful. She was thanking him in the deepest way her species knew. Evan reached out slowly, hesitating, then placed his hand gently near her front limb. She looked at him in surprise, her body tensing for a moment. Then calming, her eyes softened, and she tapped his hand lightly with the tip of her limb, a small, gentle touch that carried a big meaning. They were no longer strangers, no longer hunter and prey, but allies, maybe even friends. Outside the cave, the forest stayed silent, but Evan felt something watching them, the memory of the roar still echoing in his mind. Whatever creature hunted these lands would return, and he knew he couldn't let the children face it alone. The spider girl seemed to sense his fear because she moved closer, placing herself between him and the entrance, as if telling him she would protect him, just as he protected her young. The moment was strange and beautiful, an alien creature standing guard over a human she once frightened to death. Evan finally leaned against the cave wall, the warm air making him sleepy, but every time he closed his eyes, he felt her presence, steady and calm beside him. She didn't rest, didn't close her eyes. She kept watching the entrance with a quiet strength that made Evan feel safe for the first time in days. As he drifted into a light sleep, he realized something powerful. He was no longer alone on this planet. He had someone who trusted him, someone who needed him, someone who saw him not as prey, but as hope. And as the night slowly faded into morning, the human and the spider girl sat together in silence, strange companions bound by danger, fear, and a small group of children whose future depended on both of them. The morning came slowly, filling the cave with a soft golden light that made the silver bodies of the spider children glow like small stars. Evan woke with a stiff neck and sore back, but the first thing he saw made his heart lift. The children were stronger. Some were even sitting up, their small limbs trembling but alive. The older spider girl moved quickly to check each one, tapping them gently, humming soft comforting sounds. Her eyes bright with relief, Evan watched her and felt something warm inside him. A strange feeling of pride, like he had become part of something bigger than himself. But the peace did not last long. The cave suddenly filled with a deep echo from outside. Not the roar from the night before, but a different rhythm. Heavy footsteps, multiple sets, slow and deliberate. The spider girl's body tensed instantly. Her legs spreading wide protectively around the children, she glared at the entrance. Ready to fight if she had to, Evan stood up slowly, gripping a long piece of metal like a spear, fear twisting inside him again. But this time he wasn't afraid for himself, he was afraid for them, for the young, for the girl who had done everything to protect him and her family. The footsteps came closer, and shadows moved just outside the cave until finally, several large spider beings stepped inside. Taller and broader than the girl, their fangs long, their bodies scarred, their eyes glowing with fierce intensity. Evan backed away, thinking they might attack him. But the girl rushed forward and stood between him and the newcomers, clicking her limbs loudly, warning them, defending him with her whole body. Evan felt his throat tighten after everything he'd feared about her. She was now risking herself for him. The largest of the new spiders moved closer, lowering its huge head to inspect the sleeping children. Then it turned its eyes to the girl, and after a moment that made Evan's heart pound, the leader made a low humming sound. A sound of gratitude, a sound of recognition. The girl replied with soft clicks, pointing one limb at the children, then at Evan, then at her own chest, telling them the truth, telling them he had saved their young, that he was not prey, not an enemy, but a protector. The leader slowly approached Evan, towering over him like a living mountain. Evan's legs shook, but he didn't step back. He stood firm. The leader stared at him with glowing eyes, then lowered its body and bowed its head, a deep, slow bow of respect that made Evan freeze in shock. The other spiders followed, lowering themselves before him, honoring him in their own ancient way. Evan could hardly breathe. He had expected death or fear, but instead, he was receiving the highest sign of trust their species offered. The spider children crawled weakly toward him, touching his hand with tiny limbs, their soft click sounding like laughter. The older girl looked at Evan then, her blue eyes warm, bright. Full of something gentle and strong, she approached him slowly, placing one limb against her chest in the same gesture she had used before, a gesture of deep respect, deep connection, and deep gratitude. Evan felt his eyes sting with emotion, and without thinking, he placed his hand over his own chest, mirroring the gesture. She froze for a moment, surprised, then her body relaxed in a way he had never seen. He had given her the same honor she gave him, and it meant everything to her. The leader made a call, a deep resonating sound, and the group began preparing to move the children back to their hidden colony. But the older girl stayed close to Evan, tapping his arm softly, asking him to follow, asking him to come with them, to be part of their world. Evan looked at the cave, the forest, the sky he once hated, and then at her, the one who once terrified him, the one who saved him. The one he saved in return. He nodded slowly, and she lifted her head proudly, guiding him out of the cave and into the bright morning light. And as Evan walked beside her, surrounded by the alien beings who now saw him as family, he understood something powerful. He had found a place where he was needed, a place where he mattered, a place where fear had turned into trust, where danger had turned into connection, and where a human and an alien spider girl had changed each other's worlds forever.